All right. Let's start. I think I saw 15 and now it has dropped to 13. Let's start. I'm sure they will join us. So good afternoon once again.
Good afternoon, madam.
Good afternoon, madam.
When we met last week, we looked at grammatical units and we continued from words. So we looked at phrases. This week we'll be looking at clauses. Now, so last week when we were defining phrases, I distinguished between what a phrase is and a clause is. The key difference between a phrase and a clause, and I mentioned that it was what we call the finite verb. And so we looked at what a finite verb is. And we saw that a finite verb marks tense, has a subject, a marks number. And then we had a finite verb inside. We added it by looking at its number, the tense, and the subject of that verb. And I told you that when we start to look at clauses, the key thing we will consider, because the difference between a phrase and a clause is that a clause has a finite verb and a subject. So that's what we'll be doing today. Just as we saw for the phrases, that there are types of them. Clauses all categorized into types. And the types represent the various word classes, major word classes that we saw. So we have now clauses, we have adjective clauses, adverb clauses. The verb is what, so we do not have a verb clause, but we have a verb phrase. And I explained to you that the verb phrase is made up of verbs, helping verbs, and the main verbs. So we will take a quick review of last week's lesson. Everybody's going to write or tell me what they remember from the class, and then quickly we will run into clauses and we'll move on. So, what do you remember from last lesson? From the last lesson? Everyone will talk. Maybe I should call out your names. Prince.
Yes, madam.
Please answer the question.
Okay, so we talked about adjectival phrases and verbs and adverbs and so on.
Okay. Holly. Holly.
Madam.
Yeah, tell me what you remember from last session, from the last session.
Madam, last session I wasn't around. I wasn't able to make it, please.
Okay. Rona, but you haven't read the notes too. Kindly go through the notes. Okay.
Yes, madam.
Ronald.
Thank you.
Sorry, Roland. Roland Boating.
Madam,
Yes.
we do about verb phrases and adjectival phrase.
Adjectival phrase. Okay. So what is the main function of the adjectival phrase? Andrick. Andre, are you there? Can you hear us?
Yes, madam.
All right. Yeah, listen.
Madam, please, they can function as object complement.
Okay. So, example. Give us a sentence.
They kept the man very busy.
Okay. So the adjective phrase is
Very busy.
very good. Okay, so quickly we would the rest of you haven't forgotten. My questions will come to you. Look at this today, and just as at the beginning of this program, I explained to you that the English language is made up of grammatical units. So we looked at morpheme, we looked at words, how morphemes come together to form words, how words are put together to form phrases, and then how we put a finite verb in a group of words to form clauses. How we put finite verbs in groups of words to form clauses. So today, that's what we'll be looking at. I expect that at the end of this session, you'll be able to define what a clause is and identify clauses and even write your own examples. I also expect that you'll be able to identify the various types of clauses and how they are used or their functions of each of those clause types that we'll be looking at. So while we continue, keep that in mind, okay? Now, since we've already explained that a clause is a group of words that contains a finite verb, then definitely there is a subject in that clause. There will be a subject performing the action or in the verb expressed in that clause. It can take the place of the different parts of speech. So for instance, the noun clause can function as the subject, just as noun phrase can function as a subject, just as a noun can function as a subject. So though we are building on the units, they perform similar functions, okay? Of course, they are expressed differently. For instance, a word will be a single word. A phrase may be two or more, and a clause will be two or more, but with a finite verb. So they are able to perform same function as the individual word class, major word classes. Now, the two major of clauses are the dependent and independent clauses. So all clauses can be grouped under either dependent or independent clauses. Now, the independent, as the name suggests, are clauses that are also referred to as what we call the simple sentences. Okay. When we start looking at sentences, you'll see what I'm talking about. So an independent clause is equal to a simple sentence. It makes meaning. It does not require any additions to complete or have a complete in its communication of thoughts. So an independent clause makes meaning without depending on anything. Is like by itself the main person in just a mundane language. It stands on its own, makes complete meaning. It doesn't depend on anything, just as the name suggests, independence. Right. Now, an example of that is Jim studied in the cafeteria for his chemistry quiz. Jim studied in the cafeteria for his chemistry quiz. I mean, this sentence is very meaningful. Every information there is complete. Jim studied. Studied is the verb of this sentence, which is the subject of this verb is Jim. So now the finite verb we spoke about is here in this independent clause. indicating its subject and also marking tense in this particular sentence. So it stands on its own. Now, when we look at the dependent clause, then you will get the difference. A dependent clause is a group of words that contains a subject and a verb. Remember, the verb is a hallmark for all clauses, whether dependent or independent. Okay, so it contains a subject and a verb, but does not express a complete thought. So when you have heard or read a dependent clause, you have some sort of questions to ask, or you think there's something wrong, like all the information has not been given. Okay, an example is when Jim studied in the cafeteria for his chemistry quiz. When Jim studied in the, are you like, what happened? And then what? Like it's as if the person hasn't finished speaking or finished making their information known. They have partly expressed the information they want to put across. Okay. So when James studied in the cafeteria for his chemistry quiz, and usually that is the tone or the intonation for reading independent clause, it's usually moves from a place of stressing it to kind of unstressing it. Like when Jim studied in the cafeteria for his chemistry quiz, that intonation there suggests that there needs to be an added information. And that is how independent clauses are often read. So this sentence can be made complete if we add other information. While it is not complete in thoughts or in meaning, every requirement of a clause is present. The verb studied is still marking tense in the past. It has its subject, Jim, and it carries all the features of a clause. But the only difference is that this one, the sentence is not complete. Sorry, the idea is not complete. It needs additional information to make it complete. So the dependent clause, as the name suggests, mean that it needs another clause to depend on it for the meaning to be complete. So when you write your essays, when you write your letters, when you write your reports, and all the things you'll be writing, you have to check these things to make sure that are my sentences complete in thoughts. And that is why we are learning all these things. So now the difference between these two, we know they share the same grammatical features. There's a subject present, there's a verb, finite verb present, but the dependent clause does not make a complete thought. Its meaning is lacking of some sort. It needs additional information or another clause for the meaning to be complete. And that is the major differences between the two types of clauses. Now, there are some words that we consider them as dependent marker word, or they when you see them, you see that they make group of words sound like a dependent or become a dependent clause. An example of such in the sentence we saw earlier is the word when. Immediately we add when to Jim studied in the cafeteria for his chemistry quiz, the sentence becomes dependent. Jim studied the cafeteria. If you can you see the slides?
Yes,
can
please.
You see
Yes,
the slides?
Yes, please.
Okay. So the items in red, James studied in the cafeteria for his chemistry quiz, is a complete independent clause. But immediately we attach when, which is the dependent marker to it, the structure becomes dependent. When studied in the cafeteria for his chemistry quiz. Then has to be said, okay, or dependent words. Some common of them are what we've listed there: after, although, as if, because, before, even if, even though, if, in order to, since, though, unless, until, whatever, when, whenever, whether, and wow. These are some of them. And all of it with one of these will be complete. If the meaning is complete, then it means that that dependent clause has been attached to an independent clause and now it's meaningful. If you write it with a single finite verb, I can tell you for sure that to be a dependent clause. Okay, so think about that. And when you are ready, kindly put it at the chat section. I will take a look at them. Think about that. Now, while we wait for you to put your sentences down, when we looked at word classes, the minor word classes, we're supposed to have considered conjunctions there, and I believe you've read them. Remember, I posted the material. Now, there are some type of conjunctions we call the coordinating conjunctions. The coordinating conjunctions are words that are used to join two independent clauses. Coordinating conjunctions are words or are conjunctions that are used to join two independent clauses. Remember, we've seen examples of dependent markers. Now, we are looking at examples of conjunctions that can combine two or more independent clauses. And such types of sentences are called compound sentences. And when we look at sentence types, we'll see that too. But just so you know that these coordinating conjunctions are not dependent markers. They are also a group of words by themselves that can perform a different function. So when you use one of these coordinating conjunctions, your sentence will have two independent clauses, and these conjunctions will serve the purpose of combining these two. These dependent markers we saw, or in other studies, the subordinating conjunctions that we saw, they do not add two independent clauses. They rather change the status of an independent clause to a dependent clause. So while the subordinating conjunctions or the dependent markers have the ability to change the clause type, coordinating conjunctions don't have that. Rather, they have that sense of joining two sentences. And these conjunctions have been put together in an acronym, and it's called FAMBOYS. That's just for you to remember. So FAMBOYS, whenever it comes to mind, you know that words like for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so are not part of the dependent markers. They are used. So whenever you use this, it means that you are going to join two or more independent clauses, or you are going to connect two or more independent clauses. So FAMBOYS are those conjunctions that are used for coordinating purposes, okay? And have that in mind. If you can remember FAMBOYS, then you can always remember the coordinating conjunctions for, and, no, but, or, yet, so. Now, when the second independent clause in a sentence begins with a coordinating conjunction, often a comma is needed before the coordinating conjunction, okay? I mean, this is a grammatical issue. Some people have expressed that it's not necessary. Other people believe this is American and the British, you don't need a comma. I mean, all that arguments are there. But it's still not wrong if you put a comma before you bring the coordinating conjunction. An example of such a sentence is Jim studied in the cafeteria for his chemistry quiz, but it was hard to concentrate because of the noise. Now, I want us to look at this example carefully. You see that the first part of the sentence, Jim studied in the cafeteria for his chemistry quiz, is an independent clause, but is a coordinating conjunction. It was hard to concentrate is an independent clause. Now, we have because of the noise attached to it to give us reason. So because of the noise, it was hard to concentrate. Is the other side of the sentence that independent clause that has been joined with the first one. Now, somebody may ask, so is because of the noise a dependent clause? No. The reason is that in that structure, there is no finite verb. Because of the noise, it has no finite verb, and therefore we can assume it to be a phrase. And it's going to be an adverbial phrase or for reason, the reason why he could not concentrate. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. Even though there appear to be a dependent marker because it still doesn't make it a clause, because the key feature of a clause is a finite verb, which is lacking in this particular structure because of the noise. There is no finite verb in that structure, so that structure can be a clause. But there's a finite verb in it was hard to concentrate because of the noise. What's the finite verb? What's the finite verb in that independent clause, class?
Was.
Was, very good. And the subject is it. So now we've seen two sets of conjunctions that enable us to form dependent clauses and to connect two independent clauses. Farm boys is for independent clauses. So know that farm boys are independent. Farm boys are independent. Dependent markers make dependent clauses. So you keep that at the back of your mind. Like farm boys are independent clauses. Boys who are farm are independent clauses. Dependent markers make dependent clauses. And we saw the dependent markers. Now, sometimes in writing, we use what we call independent markers. Okay. It means that when you use these, the structures that will follow are often independent clauses. Okay. So words like consequently, the next structure that you mention will be an independent clause. Furthermore, the next structure that will follow it will be an independent clause. It will not be a dependent clause. So these words are also called independent markers, just as we saw for the dependent markers. These are independent markers. So whenever you use any of these words, know that whatever structure is following it must be independent, must make a complete thought. Because for instance, if you are saying consequently, it means you have said something and you are saying that the consequence of that thing is what you're about to say. And what you're about to say must make a full, complete meaning. That's the whole point with this independent markers. Any questions so far? Please respond so that if you have a question so far, let me know, please. Hello.
No question, madam.
Class, are you there?
Yes, madam. Yes, madam.
All right. Now, we've been talking about the two major types of clauses. They are, all of you, they are
Dependent clauses.
Dependent clauses.
and what?
Clause and independent clause.
Very good.
Independent.
Now, as we progress, we will see that there are types of dependent clauses. Remember, an independent clause is a simple sentence. So we will look at that when we are looking at sentence types. But there are types of dependent clauses. And these are what we'll be looking at. The noun clause, the adjective clause, the adverb clause. So these types of clauses are all dependent clauses. So if you are asked, is a noun clause a dependent or independent clause? What will be your answer?
Noun clause, independent clause.
Is a
It's
what? Hello. The noun clause is it dependent or independent? I've answered this question already. Okay, so I'll just.
Well, it is dependent.
All. All the types of clauses we'll be looking at, the clause, the adverb clause, are all dependent. They are all dependent clauses. They need other clauses for their meanings to be complete.
To express a meaningful thought.
All the types of dependent clauses. They are all dependent clauses. Somebody is talking. What's your question, please? Okay. So we'll just move straight to the adverb clause. Now, the reason for beginning with adverb clause is that the noun clause has types. So we'll just quickly go through the adverb and the adjective clause. And then we'll treat the noun clauses as the last type. Because we'll look at adverb clauses are also grouped in the subject, but their key function is that they function like adverbs. So they modify verbs or adjectives or even another adverb. So adverb clauses modify verbs, adjectives, or other adverbs. And remember, it's a clause. So there will be a finite verb in there, in that clause. And remember, it's a group of words. Group of words. So a clause, group of words with a finite verb and a subject. Modifying a verb will be an adverb clause. And they tell where, we know how adverbs tell where, when, how, to what extent, and at what condition that's the verb occur. That's the same thing. The clauses do the same thing. They tell where, when, how, to what extent, and at what condition something happened. and they can be found in anywhere, any part of the sentence. It could be at the initial, middle, or final part of the sentence. They're just like all the other adverbs. You know how mobile adverbs are. It can be at the front. Quickly, I ran to him. I ran to him quickly. I ran quickly to him. Quickly's position has been changed from initial to middle to final states or position in the sentence. And the sentence is still meaningful. In fact, communicates the same thing. So that's it with the adverb clause to be able to do that. But of course, context is very key. I told you the last time that we teach the rule, but there are exceptions. Okay. So if you find an exception, it doesn't mean the rule doesn't exist. It just means that what you found is an exception to the rule. Okay. So in this context, I want us to look at some examples. I haven't forgotten the example I asked you to write. Okay. So we'll look at some examples, and as usual, you find your own examples and write them so that we can all have a look at it. Now, examples are: you may sit wherever you wish. Wherever you wish, you may sit. You, wherever you wish, may sit. All that's meaningful. All those individual sentences are meaningful. We've seen how the adverb clause was moved from the final position to the initial position or front position and then to the middle position. Now, the wherever you wish is an adverb clause because remember we said adverb clause tell where, when, how, to what extent, and the what condition. Good. So, which of these that I've just mentioned is the clause wherever you wish telling us about the verb? It's telling us where the position you want to sit wherever you wish. Now, the clause is finite, and the verb or the finite verb in that clause is the verb wish. You wish. So you may sit wherever you wish. Wish is a finite verb in this clause, and its subject is you. Now, let's look at the second sentence. When spring sets in, many students go crazy. When spring sets in, many students go crazy. Okay, so many students go crazy. When spring sets in. So this clause is telling us something about the verb, the time of the verb. Sammy and Alexandra look as though they have some exciting news for us. So, as though they have something exciting news, some exciting news for us is an adverb clause. Now, I want you to identify the finite verb in this clause. As though they have some exciting news for us. What is the finite verb in that clause? The underlined red clause in the third sentence. As though they have some exciting news for us. What is the finite verb in there? Erica. Erica, what is the finite verb in that clause? Moses. Moses.
Yes, madam.
All right. So Moses, what's the finite verb in that clause? Moses, are you there? Jonathan. Jonathan.
Yes, madam.
All right. What's the finite verb in that sentence? Jonathan, are you there?
Hello, madam.
Yeah, I think the network is, but I think it's half.
Have. That's very good. Have. Have. So have is a finite verb in that clause. Good. And it's modifying the verb look. As though, how did they look? The manner by which they looked or in which they looked, as though they have some exciting news for us. So these are adverb clauses. Now, these are more examples. Remember, we said adverb clauses could also modify adjectives. This is an example. Happy because he won Isaac, Alvin hurried to inform Che. Happy because he won Isaac, Alvin hurried to inform Che. In this context, because he won Isaac is modifying the adjective happy. Okay? Happy because he won Isaac. So it's like the reason for the happiness, not necessarily the reason for hurried in the verb in the second clause. Okay? But rather it is explaining how the happiness came about. All right. So now we are all going to write sentences with adverb clauses. Adverb clauses. Then we'll quickly move on. Everyone write your sentence. Take a minute or two to go through them. Everyone write your sentence. I'm marking here. I'm looking at those who will write. Okay, Joseph said have is a finite verb. Joseph, why? But you spoke and you wrote it. Okay, Gilbert said, yeah. Gilbert, I see your response. So now write your sentences with adverb clauses in there. You can put the adverb clause in quotation so that I know what you are referring to, okay? I don't want to assume for anyone. So put the adverb clause in quotation marks so that when I read, I'll know that this is what you are referring to. Even if it rains, we will go to the party. Even if it rains, we will go. So no matter what, we will go to the party. Okay. Even if I will call you when I arrive. Very good. Also Prince. She studied hard because she wanted to pass the exams. Very good, Michael. I will start the movie when the popcorn is ready. Okay. That's by who? Solomon Yuenchi. She has been much happier since she started her new job. Okay. That is Sifero. Sifero, am I saying your name right? Sifero, am I saying your name right? Okay. Sifero is missing. Ohene Gabi, I will start cooking once the guests get in. Okay. Kofi, we left the show ended. Kofi, kindly look at your sentence, okay? It appears incomplete. He won the race. Who is that? Let me check. Samuel. He won the race is an independent clause. I can't see any adverb clause in there, okay? Use one of the markers, the dependent markers, and you'll be fine. We left after the show ended. Very good. Kojo. Moses, whether you like it or not, you must stay home. Now, whether you like it or not is a different type of clause. Okay. And we will see it when we start looking at noun clauses. So that's a good example, but it doesn't apply here. Anyway, I think I've seen some good examples, so we can move on. Now, we have seen adverb clauses. So we'll quickly move to what we call the adjective clauses or relative clauses. Adjective clauses or relative clauses. So the key function of the adjective clause is that they modify nouns. And we use relative pronouns like that, which, who, whom, and whose. You know, when we're looking at adverbs, we saw that we're using particular kinds of pronouns or dependent markers, because, when, but you do not want to draw one-to-one connection between them, because when we get to nominal clauses, there's a type of nominal clause that is called WH nominal clause, and it uses these WH words to perform that function. So that's why I'm not drawing attention to, okay, so which, who, whom, they are relative clauses. When you use they are, no. The identifying the type of clause often depends on the context it has been used. Okay, it depends on the context it has been used. For relative and adjective clauses, you'll find some of these WH words helping form such clauses, but they are not restricted to this place for just relative clauses. And under relative clauses, they are called relative pronouns, okay? They are called relative pronouns. But like I said, they can perform other functions, especially in noun clauses. So while we say that, it doesn't mean these relative pronouns are restricted to this kind of clauses alone. We'll surely even see them when we look at WH nominal clauses. So they perform the same function as adjectives. That was the first thing I said. So they modify nouns. Remember, it's a clause, so those group of words would have a finite verb in there, but beginning with one of these relative pronouns. So that, and then dot, dot, dot. The rest of the structure will follow with a finite verb in there. We'll see examples quickly soon. Now, when it comes to relative clauses, there are two types actually. We have what we call the defining relative clause and non-defining relative clause, or restrictive relative clause or non-restrictive relative clause. Now, for the defining relative clause, usually what happens is that the defining or non-restrictive, the restrictive relative, defining restrictive, non-defining non-restrictive, okay? So for the defining relative clause, it seems to identify and modify the noun. But the non-restrictive seem to give additional information to the noun. And grammarians have argued it out, and they concluded that usually the non-restrictive or non-defining relative clauses, often the noun it's modifying is a proper noun, because a proper noun identifies itself, okay? Just by being a proper noun, it identifies itself. But if you want to add additional information to it by modifying it, that structure, if it's a clause, becomes what we call non-restrictive. The meaning is not restricted by that additional information. It's just giving you additional information about the noun. But the first one, which is the defining or the restrictive, seem to be identifying and defining the noun for you. So, for instance, example of the restrictive relative clause: my sister lives in Canada. Sorry, my sister who lives in Canada is a biologist. Now, my sister, we don't know who your sister is, maybe. And then you add the information who lives in Canada. It could be that you have several sisters. And in order to distinguish the one in Canada from the one in Germany or the one in Ghana, that is why you've added that information. You want to say one of your sisters is a biologist, but you want to tell us or define the meaning of my sister. So it's not the one in Germany, neither is it the one in Ghana, but the one in Canada. So that way, the meaning is defined, or it's identifying the noun my sister. Okay. So question, you can even ask which of your sisters is a biologist? And the answer will be the one who lives in Canada. Do you see that? But the non-restrictive, when we say Madame Laura is a proper noun, and therefore doesn't need identification. Once we mention the name, there is a presupposition that we all know Madame Laura. Other than that, we would have said a woman, but immediately the name of the person is mentioned. A proper noun is used. It means that we can all, of some sort, identify who that person is. So Madame Laura, who lives in Canada, in this context, we're just saying that, Madame Laura, who lives in Canada, asking an additional information. But it is not to restrict the meaning in Madame Laura. Madame Laura, by its proper noun nature, identifies itself and doesn't need who lives in Canada to make a complete, identification of Madame Laura. So that is the whole concept. And when you have used structures like this, for the non-restrictive, you set it apart with comma. You set apart the relative clause with comma to indicate that if we take who lives in Canada out, Madame Laura is a biologist will still make meaning, and we will know who Madame Laura is. But it is assumed that if we take who lives in Canada from my sister who lives in Canada, it will read my sister is a biologist, and we may ask, which of your sisters? So that is the sense attached to these two types of relative clauses, or defining and non-defining clauses. So restrictive clause, defining clause, non-restrictive, non-defining. Keep it in mind though, restrictive clauses are defining relative clauses. Non-restrictive relative clauses are non-defining relative clauses. Do you have a question about the explanation I've given so far? Can you hear me?
Yes, madam, you can hear you.
Yes,
Yes,
madam.
please.
All right. Do you have any question about the difference between restrictive and non-restrictive? Okay. Since you don't have any question, we'll continue. So now these relative pronouns that we identify at the initial stages of defining what's a relative clause, you can't just use them anyhow. You can't just decide that, okay, let me just choose one of these and make a sentence with it. No. Your choice will depend on what you are talking about. So, for instance, if you are talking about a person, a human being, you may possibly choose who, whom. If you are talking about maybe something that is quite inanimate, you may choose which. If you are referring to the whatever you are modifying, if it's a subject, you may use who. If it's object of preposition, you may use whom. So we've heard people ask questions like, so when do I say whom? And I mean, when whatever you are talking about, whatever these relative clause is modifying, if it's an object, then the relative pronoun you will be. Now, there are instances where you can use that animate things. And in such instances, that refers to indefinite pronouns like one, everybody, no one, nobody. Now, let's look at examples. The man who robbed the bank was arrested the next day. The man robbed the bank. So the man is the subject of the verb robbed, okay? The man who robbed the bank was arrested the next day. Now, I want us to look at this sentence. Those who stroke okay online said they will take an online class online said they will take an online class again. Those in this context refers to a group of people. So it could refer to everyone, all, everybody, anybody, you know. In such context, you can also replace who with that. But you can't say the man that robbed the bank, because in this context, the man is not referring to an indefinite pronoun. The man is a specific entity. The man. So we use who, you can't use that. But those, immediately we say those, we know that it's not a particular person or group of people that we can identify, but some indefinite people that we may identify with whatever in this context action they are undertaking or activity they are going to do. So when the subject refers to a group of people of some sort that is indefinite, you can use that and the sentence will still be correct. And you can use who and the sentence will still be correct. Now, what has to consider these sentences? The interns whom this company employs come from a number of Northern Islands colleges and universities, learners, colleges and universities. The interns whom this company employs. Now, what is the relative clause in this sentence? What is the adjective clause in this sentence? What is the adjective clause in this sentence? All of you, what is the adjective clause in this sentence? What is the adjective clause in this sentence? Sentence 1. The interns whom this company employs come from a number of Northern Islands college and universities. Yes, what's the relative clause here? Look for the relative pronoun. Make sure there's a finite verb in there. Now that I've given a cue, all of you should be able to identify it. Samuel.
Whom this company employs.
Please speak louder. Samuel, please speak louder. I didn't hear you. All right, Michael, into. Samuel, whom is the relative pronoun? I want you to identify the relative clause. So whom should guide you? It doesn't mean that is the relative pronoun is the relative clause. No. Remember, a clause must have a finite verb. So, Michael. Joseph. Ohene Gabi. Okay, Joseph is speaking. Madam,
Can I give it a try?
Joseph. Joseph, please speak louder. I didn't hear you.
Madam, this is Moses. I said I wanted to give it a try.
You want what?
I want to give it a try. This is Moses.
Oh, I can't hear you. Okay, write it down. Joseph, write it down, okay? Ohene. What's the relative clause? If I've called your name, just write it down. Gilbert. Augustine. Okay, so Gilbert has brought his. The relative clause is whom the company employs. That's very good. Very good. So whom this company employs. Now, if we take that relative clause out, you realize that the sentence is still meaningless. The interns come from a number of Northern Alliances college and universities. You see it. So whom this company employ is modifying the noun interns. The interns. Right. Now, This sentence has been written in several ways to show how the different relative pronouns can be used to communicate the same thing. So in the second sentence, you realize that the relative pronoun whom has changed to who, and the sentence is still correct. The interns whom this company employs. So this company employs people, and the people are interns. So the interns are the object of the verb employ. That is why whom is right. And in formal context, that is what we use. So in formal writing, we use whom if you're referring to the objective case in a sentence. But who is also correct here, and that is also used in informal settings and even sometimes formal settings. So the interns who this company employs come from a number of Northern Illinois colleges and universities. Now, remember, interns refer to some group of people that are quite indefinite. So it is possible again to replace who with that, and the sentence will still be meaningful. The interns that this company employs come from the number of Northern Illinois colleges and universities, and that sentence is also correct. Now, let's look at the last one. The interns this company employs come from a number of Northern Illinois colleges and universities. Now, in grammar, this is what we call the missing that clause. So, in this context, that has been taken out and the sentence still is meaningful. If we put that there, the sentence will still be meaningful. So sometimes in some contexts, especially when that can be used as the relative pronoun, sometimes it's possible to omit it or take it out of the sentence, and your sentence will still be meaningful. So these are the 4 instances where we can change the relative pronoun and the sentence will still be meaningful, and the relative clause will still be in there somewhere, modifying a noun. Is that clear? Any question about this 4 sentences? Any question about the 4 sentences? Is there something you want to say, a comment you want to add? Okay, so I will ask my question. What's the difference between restrictive and non-restrictive relative clause? Everybody's going to type. The difference between restrictive and non-restrictive relative clause. Everybody should type. I'll be marking here. I want to see 23 responses. The difference between non-restrictive relative clause and restrictive relative clause. Okay, so Michael says restrictive is defining, non-restrictive is not non-defining. Okay. But what makes it defining and non-defining? Anyway, that's good. Okay, only Michael has written. I'm waiting for you. Gilbert, restrictive gives us essential information. Non-restrictive gives extra information. Okay, that's good. The rest of you, where are you? Or you are Googling? Okay, so Jonathan says Restrictive clause equals to defining clause. Non-restrictive clause is non-defining clause. Okay. Hey, the rest of you, are you there? Solomon. Restrictive relative clause identifies the non-restrictive relative modifies a proper noun. Okay, so that's one of the, yeah, that's true. All right. So we've seen the two types of relative clauses, and we've seen when to use what relative pronoun. Which for inanimate objects, animate, that can replace who or whom when we are referring to a group or indefinite people, like everyone, all, etc. So let's have that in mind so that when we write or speak, we will know what relative pronoun to use. On slide 15 and 16 that you can pay attention to. Now, there's something we call connective relative clauses. Connective relative clauses. An example of such is one of, two of, several of. They do not necessarily define nouns, but they rather continue the story. Of course, whom is used with persons and which with things. Example, I introduced her to my friends, one of whom offered us ride home. I introduced her to my friends, one of whom offered us a ride home. So the friends that were introduced to the person, one of them offered the speaker and the friend a ride home. So when you see things like one of whom, one of which, they are all relative clauses. And of course, the key thing should be there, finite verb and the subject. So in this context, one of whom offered us a ride. Offered is a finite verb. One of whom, so the subject of offered is one. Of whom is telling us that one of them. It's like saying one of them. Okay. Another example is whoever answers the last question gets an extra credit point. Whoever answers the last question gets. Okay, so what it means is that the one who answers the last question right gets an extra. And another example is whichever of us answers the question. So when you see structures like this, know that they are connective relative clauses. I bet to say that we can argue them also sometimes, especially whomever and whichever as nominals, but we won't go into that. In case you see any of these sentences, if you choose connective relative clause, that will be correct. Okay, so now we've looked at dependent and independent clauses. We've seen the major difference between the two. One makes a complete thought, the other doesn't. Independent makes complete thought, dependent doesn't. Then now we're looking at the types of dependent clauses. We've seen adverb clauses, which talk about the time, manner, frequency, how it happened, about the verb. And then we've seen relative clauses also performing the function of noun, adjectives or adjective phrase by modifying nouns. And we've seen that there are two types. We have the restrictive, non-restrictive, or defining, non-defining relative. And I said one major hallmark of the non-restrictive is that usually the noun will be a proper noun. Usually, the noun will be a proper noun. And then for defining, it appears to add information to define the noun so that you know specifically what the speaker is talking about. Now we will move straight to the noun clause. If you have any question about relative and adverb clause, you can ask it now before we move on to the noun clause. Okay, I see new messages. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. So I've seen Solomon's response. I've seen okay. Yeah, so Prince is also highlighting what I said about the restrictive and non-restrictive stuff. The non-restrictive are always set apart with commas, because you can actually take them out and the sentence will still be meaningful. And you can even take the one of the non-restrictive out, but in the non-restrictive, it serves the purpose of defining the meaning of the noun. So when you take it out, it means some information has been taken out. Therefore, the noun will not be defined. And it's assumed the speaker may not know whom you are talking about. But for the non-restrictive, when you take it out, it's assumed that the listener will know whom you are referring to. So that's the whole difference. Okay. So that's good, Prince. Okay, Holly, I see your response. Ohene Gabi. Very good. Moses, I've seen yours. Restrictive is necessary for the rules. Eric Ivan, I've seen your response. All right. So if there are no questions, indicate there are no questions, and then I'll move straight to the noun clause, because there are types of them, and we may spend a little time to finish. Any question indicates, and let's move on. No question. Okay. All right. So the last type of the dependent clause that we are looking at today is the noun clause. Now, under noun clause, we have three types. We have two major types of clauses: dependent and independent clause. Under dependent clauses, we have three types: adverb clause, adjective clause, nominal clause. And then under nominal clause, we have three types. We have the that nominal clause, the WH nominal clause, and the yes or no nominal clause. Now we'll go into each one of them, and then you see how they are structured. Now, a noun clause, just like all the other clauses, they have a finite verb, or they have finite verbs, and there is a subject in there. And they perform the functions of nouns. And we all know the functions of nouns: subject, object, subject complement, and all the rest we saw. So you see that these noun clauses will be doing exactly that. Okay, will be doing exactly that. Now remember, I said we have three types of noun clauses. We have the WH, the that's nominal clause, and the yes or no. Keep these three types in mind. The first type that we'll be looking at are what we call the WH nominal clause. When we're looking at relative clauses, I told you that the relative pronouns, the names are just relative pronouns, as if they, every time you see them, they are performing the function of relative clause. But in some instances, WH words are used in clauses that are nouns by nature, or that are nominals by nature. So you see words like what, whatever, when, where, which, who, whoever, whom, and the clauses will be nominal clause. Now, sometimes you know what kind of clause it is by using it in a sentence. So when you say, where Sari lives, just that, and you ask somebody, what clause is this? It will be hard for the person to identify that clause as either relative clause or a nominal clause, because its type depends on the context it has been used. Now, let's look at this instance. So, let's just assume that if somebody asks you, where does Sarik live? Where does Sarik live? And you want to answer the question, you will say, I don't know where Sarik lives. So where Sarik lives is something you do not know. Something you do not know. That something you do not know cannot act like an adverb or an adjective, but it is a knowledge you do not have, or a knowledge you have. And that knowledge is expressed by saying where Sarik lives. And that's what makes it a noun clause. So often the WH nominal clause, you can use them to ask a question. So for instance, I don't know where Sarik lives. And somebody can ask, do you know where Sarik lives? And that's a nominal clause. Remember, because it's a clause, there's a finite verb and there is a subject. And in this context, I don't know where Sarik lives, which has been bolding. The noun clause has been bolding where Sarik lives. Lives is the finite verb of that clause, and Sarik is the subject. The where is a WH marker. That is making this a WH nominal clause. Okay. Now, we can answer this question without a noun clause by saying the following. I don't know Sarik's address. The noun phrase Sarik's address can replace that noun clause. So it's like a noun phrase can always mostly replace the noun clause. So if that clause cannot with a noun phrase, then maybe it is not a nominal clause. So go is the question. Where to go is the question. What is the question? Where to go? To go this afternoon is the question. What to eat this evening is my headache. What to eat this in my head? Whatever she does is none of me. These are all nominal clauses. Okay. These are all nominal clauses, but they begin with WH or not. So always look at the context it has been used before you determine its clause type. Okay. Now these are more examples for the WH nominal clauses. Which quote to choose is Muhammad's dilemma? And in this context, it's the subject. The subject indicating the state of Muhammad's dilemma. The verb is, are, were are all state indicating verbs. They show the state. If they are functioning as main verbs, they show the state of the subject. And that's what is happening here. The issue is, how long should we wait? And we say these things in our sentence without even knowing that these are clauses that are functioning as everyday word classes like nouns. So the issue is, how long should we wait? How long should we wait? Give what you can to this worthy cause. Give what you can to this worthy cause. That's a direct object. Now, the verb give can take two objects. So give money to someone. Give someone money. So there are two objects. The receiving object and the one suffering the action of the verb. So in this context, give someone money. Someone is the receiving object. And then money is the one suffering the action of give. In giving, money is the one that is moving from one hand to another. But the receiving object is someone. So verbs like give can have two objects. And in this context, give what you can to this worthy cause. So the indirect object is this worthy cause. And what are we giving directly? What you can. So that's the direct object of the sentence. Please send whoever is interested this questionnaire. Now, the verb send is also like the verb give. They can take two objects. So the object that suffers the action is send, and the receiver of the action is send. So please send this questionnaire. Please send whoever is interested. Now, sometimes with such sentences, you can take any of the objects out and the sentence may still make sense. So please send whoever is interested. That's full sentence. Please send whoever is interested this questionnaire. Please send this questionnaire to whoever is interested. Do you see it? If you take any of them out, the sentence will still be meaningful. And in this case, the questionnaire is what is suffering from the sending, and whoever is interested is the indirect object that will receive the questionnaire. So these are all noun clauses, and in these clauses we can see the finite verbs in them. For instance, in sentence 1, which quote to choose, to choose is a verb. How long should we wait? Should we wait? So should wait is the verb. What you can is a modal verb. Is interested. So is the finite verb. And need in the last one is the finite verb. So you have to make sure that your clause has a finite verb and a subject before we even have anything to talk about in the first place. I mean, if you don't have a finite verb in that group of words, then it means we cannot look at those groups of words in light of clauses. Maybe we'll just come down to phrases and see if it will qualify to be called a phrase. Okay. So these are the examples of WH nominal clauses. I want all of us to put our sentences down, one each for WH nominal clauses. And we can perform any function at all in a sentence. I want to see how you use them in your sentences. Everybody write your sentence. I'll be marking here. She asked. Yeah, that's great. Also Prince. That's good. I don't know where he went. Okay, so that's another direct object. Whichever way to go is Angie's decision. That's good. Johnson, please give me. Johnson, kindly check your sentence, okay? Whichever way to go is Angie's decision. I think I've read that. Ellen, I've read yours. Okay. Keep writing so that we can quickly move on to the next. All right. Let's continue. Please give whoever calls you my message, okay? All right. Now, let's look at the yes or no nominal clauses. Remember, the first type we've just discussed is the WH nominal clauses, okay? What we're about to see is what we call the yes or no nominal clauses. And that's when we use the if or whether. What she said surprised everyone. That's good. Let's look at the yes or no. Now clauses that are preceded by whether or if are used to answer yes or no type of questions. Whether and if are usually used interchangeably. The following example should explain better. Does Judy own a Honda? I don't know if Judy owns a Honda. So, in turning yes or no questions into sentences and nominal clauses, we tend to use whether or if owns a Honda. If Judy owns a Honda, is a noun clause. We could answer this question without a noun clause by I don't know the answer. The noun clause if Judy owns a Honda. So if Judy owns a Honda, is the noun clause and it's a yes or no Now clause. The feature to keep in mind is that yes or no nominal clauses begin with if or whether. W nominal clauses begin with WH words. Yes or no nominal clauses begin with if or whether. Now we'll see more examples. Let's see more examples for yes or no. Think of a yes or no question. Are you going home? This is a yes or no question. Yes, I'm going home. No. Is she going home? Yes. No. I don't know if she's going home. I don't know whether or not she's going home. Do you see it? So think of a WH question. Sorry, yes or no question. A question that requires a yes or no answer. And then now try to use that in a sentence. You end up using if or whether. Okay. Now change that. Change that to a WH. Let's see. Did he pass the test? I think. She asked whether they had arrived. Okay, so I'm sure the yes or no question is have they arrived? Very good. Jan Shre Austin. That's very good. Holly, turn your sentence, your question to a sentence, and let's see how you go about it. So Sam, you to change sentence to yes or no clause. But I need you to form sentences where these will change into sent Sophie Richmond, Michael into change. Okay, Michael, yours says the teacher asked if we had studied. Very good. So the rest of you, who owns this car? The question, Watson, the question who owns this car is not a yes or no question. Look at it again. Okay, so let's quickly look at, time is fast spent. Let's quickly look at the last type of nominal clauses, and then we'll look at the function. We'll do a short exercise, the whole class. We'll discuss it, and then does Ghana celebrate Independence Day? So I don't know if Ghana celebrates Independence Day. You are all still writing your yes or no questions. That's not what I'm interested in. That is only to guide you. Okay, it's only to guide you formulate your sentences with the yes or no nominal clauses, but you're all writing that here. But don't worry, clearly you get it. You get the structure that can help you generate yes or no nominal clauses. So let's move on to the that nominal clause, and then we'll continue. Now, remember when we were looking at relative pronoun, we saw that as one of the relative pronouns. So in looking at that nominal clause, we have to be careful. And noun clauses that are preceded by that are used to answer questions in which person who is answering is thinking, giving an opinion, or using a mental activity verb. The following examples should explain better. Do you know the location of an ATM? I believe that there is an ATM in the supermarket. So this question, though is a yes or no question, it's also requiring some information, because when you have said yes or no, you need to show where that information is. Okay. For instance, you meet somebody and say, do you know where I can find an ATM? And the person says yes. That response is not enough to answer your question, because knowing doesn't make me find the place. So you have to add more information like, oh yes, I do. There's one at the mall. Then that's when you've answered the question and have helped the person. Okay. So for the speaker to say, I believe that there is an ATM in the supermarket, that there is an ATM in the supermarket is a noun clause. I believe. What do you believe? That there's an ATM in the supermarket. So it's functioning as the object of this and the that clause is functioning as an object of this sentence. Now, there's no way we will say that, oh, that is modifying the verb believe. No, that clause here is not modifying belief. Rather, it is the object of that belief. It is that thing suffering the action in belief. Yeah, I believe something. I know that eating in the night is unhealthy. I know something. I believe something. You see it. So it appears if that clause is performing the function of an object, you can replace it with even the indefinite pronoun something, and you get it. You see that, oh, okay. So what is that something? Then you come to that nominal clause. All right. So that's basically it. But I want us to think of examples for the that nominal clause. Use words like believe, know, find, realize. Use verbs like that. You will see that the structures that may follow may be nominal clauses. Okay. So all of you think about it and write your examples. Write your example. Consider words like I've told you: believe, think, realize, and there are more we can consider. So think about it and write your sentence. Everybody write. Then we'll do the short exercise here by looking at the functions. That structure follows the. Solomon, kindly look at what you've written. Again, I think a few words have been mismatched. I believe that God exists. Very good. I realized that you weren't loved. You will see that the structure follows the program. Okay. I realized that. Oh, think of other words too. These are the words I provided. Think of other words too. It's a relief that you are safe. Very good, Eshen. I realize that some of our answers are wrong. Yeah, I know that. Gilbert, very good. So you see, in all these contests, that structure that you are honest and loyal, that you are safe, that he was late, are all not modifying nouns. They seem to be the something done by the verb you have used. Okay. I knew that Black Star are not well prepared. I knew that Black Star were not prepared. Okay. Kofi Richmond, there's something we call sequence of tense. So if you are talking about a thing in the past, then you continue in the past. But if you say, I know that Black Star are not prepared, that will be correct. Okay. So Richmond, look at it again. They know that the meeting has started. Okay. That the meeting has started. Very good. The guy is my biological. Hey, that guy is my biological brother. That's a full sentence. So it's not a that nominal clause. This is a full independent clause. Okay. Samuel. She explained that very good. Johnson Doe. That the project was finished. I know that you are tired. Very good. Right. I call the coming in. That she passed her exams, made her parent. Wow, Jantre, you are the only one who have used that as a subject. That is very good. Clap for yourself wherever you are. Jantre Augustine, that she passed her exams is the subject of this sentence. But the rest of you, that's nominal clauses that you used are all performing the function of objects. Okay. That guy kissed the girl that's a full sentence. It's not a that nominal clause. So really look at it and see if you can change something to make it a nominal clause. That God loves us. That God loves us. Very good. That he arrived on time, surprised everyone. Very good. So that's a subject of the Swahili. That's a very good example where that nominal clause is performing the function of a subject. He claimed that bag is his. Very good. Claim that is his. That's very good. Before that, you see here, Boatin Roland. Before that is not a that nominal clause. At best, it will be an adverb phrase. Okay. All right. So we've seen the object function, we've seen the subject function, but we just, as a subject, remember we've looked at 3 types of nominal clauses. We've looked at the WH nominal clause, the if, that is the yes or no nominal clause, and the that nominal clause. I was told that the bills are paid. All right. That we all may be saved. That Solomon is not complete. Okay, now let's go back to the slides. Pause your writing and let's move on. Let's move back to the slides. Let's move back to the slide. All right, are you all back to the slides? I can see some people are still typing. Let me hear you. Are you back to the slides? All right.
Yes, madam.
Okay. As a subject, how he gets the money is his own affair. So the noun clauses have been bolded. Okay. So how he gets the money, that's a WH nominal clause. Whether or not he gets the money doesn't concern me. That is if or whether, or what we call the yes or no nominal clause. Whether or not he gets the money doesn't concern me. Now let's look at noun clauses as objects. As for that one, I saw a lot of them in your examples. I know that coffee grows in Brazil. So that coffee grows in Brazil is the object of the verb know. I do not know how he will get the money. How he will get the money, remember the WH nominal clauses. How is part of the WH, okay? Even though it begins with H. So that's the function of object. Now we also have what we call the complement, and usually subject complements usually come after verbs like is, am, are, the primary auxiliary verbs, okay? Is, am, are. Keep that in mind. Is, am, are, indicating some sort of state. So as a subject complement, right after the subject, that verb will follow, and whatever item follows it will be a subject complement, meaning completing the sense in the subject, how he will get the money. My understanding was that coffee grows in Brazil. So these instances are what we call the subject complement. Okay. So we won't go into details. There are some other functions we can talk about, but at this level, we'll just look at these three functions, and that will be good for us for now. We can also, okay, there's a final function here as an object of preposition clauses, performing the function of object of preposition. We saw a lot of prepositions. So when you see that a noun clause is coming immediately after a preposition, then it becomes object of preposition. But if we underline from the preposition to the end of the clause, then that clause becomes a prepositional phrase. Are you following? Are you all following?
Yes, please.
Very good. So we were concerned about, so now how he will get the money. How he will get the money is the nominal clause or the noun clause. It's a WH clause. Now is the object of the preposition about. But if in this sentence I underline about how he will get the money and I ask you, what is this grammatical unit? Your answer should be prepositional phrase. Because it begins, remember the rule for prepositional phrases is that they begin with prepositions. Okay, so that's that. Now let's look at these, let's look at this exercise and then we'll call it a day. Identify the noun clauses in the following sentences. So all of you, sentence 1, write your answer down. Read the sentence there and identify the noun clause in it. Just write only the noun clause for me. Or you can copy paste and bolding the noun clause for us to see, okay? Everybody should do it. When you are done with 1, then you do 2, then you do 3 like that. Quickly, when you finish, then it means you have finished your work. Hurry up. We started around 5:20, so we have about 4 minutes more. Let's hurry up. Can you see the work I'm talking about?
Yes, madam.
All right. So how come I haven't seen any response? That you are the fastest runner. Okay, Shen, that's good. But you left on the team. But it's still good. I mean, the finite verb is still there. You are the fastest runner. Moses, you left a very important element out. That which makes it a nominal clause. You left it out. Very good, Gilbert, that you are the fastest runner on the team. Mm-hmm. That you are the first. Samuel, very good. Johnson, Doe, that you are the Johnson. Check your you are. That you are the first. Ohiniga, be very good. Whoever wins tomorrow's race, very good. Solomon, good. Okay, Peter, good. Hey, somebody has done everything. Prince Owusu, you are the fastest, okay. Whoever wins, okay. What we need most of the okay. Okay, good, Prince. That's good. Kofi Richmond. That's good. Whoever wins the race tomorrow. Holy, I see that. Samuel, I see your second response. Ishan. Okay, whoever wins tomorrow's race, very good. Jonathan, I've seen your response that you're the slowest runner on the team. Okay, Michael, what we need. Very good. All right. Clearly, you all get it. So we'll call it a day, and I'll post the slides on LMS, okay? Maybe this evening, so that we can use that to revise. The short exercise we did last week, I'm not going to record it. I wanted to check your understanding of what we were doing. I saw that a lot of you understood, but some few other people did not get the concept. They were writing the remaining part of the sentences as the phrase, and I was a bit disturbed. So if you know you did not understand what was taught, go and read the notes. Make sure you understand it so that you do well in the exams. Okay. Kudos to all of you for your participation and your responses. We'll call it a day. And when we meet next week, we shall continue with the grammatical units. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
madam.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Go ahead.
When she can get the maximum effort out of this.
Hello, madam.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, hello. Yeah. Can you please share the slides you used to features on the LMS? Because when we are studying, it looks like what we have is a lot.
Come again.
Can you please share the exact slides you used to features on the LMS? Because what we have there looks a lot when we are studying.
No, I'm yet to post this particular slide, this presentation. I'm yet to post it there.
Oh, okay, sure.
I'm yet to post this one.
Okay.
When I post it, I will highlight it so that when you get there, you see it straight.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
All right. All right. So bye.
Bye.
Good.